Welcome back, Smashing here. We had one last Formula 2 race for this season, and of course we had a F2 title to decide. So Porsche starting P14, Vesti starting P9. Of course, those are the two drivers that were in contention for the title, with I think a 16-point margin between the two of them, of course, in Porsche's favor. It started with Doohan on pole, Martin's P2. But on the formation lap, before the formation lap even starts, Colapinto and Mason both stall. So they basically were wheeled into the pit lane to start from there. So when we get started, good start by Doohan, he keeps the lead. And Miney had a really good start and he was up to P2. There was then a battle between four Red Bull livery cars. I believe Maloney, Hadjar, Hauger, and Iwasa, all battling behind the podium positions. Iwasa then cut the turn 6 chicane. I know Maloney was very unhappy about that, but in the end he kept the position, kind of channeling his inner 2021 Lewis Hamilton there. Vesti was P8 and Vesti moved up to P8 and Porsche was P12, so moved up a couple positions there. The opening stages of the race wasn't a whole lot. There wasn't a whole lot of action. A lot of drivers just kind of managing their tires. With most of those drivers on the softer tires. So not a whole lot of action there. Then we get to lap 7, and Iwasa and Porsche were the first drivers to pit for the harder tires. Bit of an early pit stop, but for Porsche it ends up working out pretty well. The other soft runners pit lap 8 and lap 9, and Porsche basically manages to undercut both Hauger and Hadjar, moving himself up a couple of positions in the pit stops. Of course, by pitting earlier, you always have the risk of having worse tire wear through the end of the stint and then getting re-overtaken. Lap 10, Doohan was the final runner, I believe, on the softer tire to pit, and of course he was the leader as well, but he comes out and he's basically at the front of that group of drivers who are all on that strategy. Vesti though is on the alternative strategy, so he stays out and he is now P2 behind Martins, and I think it was about like a 5-second gap at this point to Martins ahead. Lap 14, Vesti is gaining slightly on Martins. It was about 4.9 seconds I think at this point. And lap 15, Leclerc was given a 5-second penalty for leaving the track. Actually, we have to go back to lap 11. Yes, lap 11. So Porsche gets fastest lap on his new tires, and the gap between Vesti and Porsche is 31.7 seconds, which is about roughly what a pit stop is in F2. Let's see, so Leclerc gets his 5-second penalty. Lap 16 then, Porsche starts to have his first laps where he's actually slower than Vesti. So a bit of a bad sign for Porsche that his tires, despite having fresher tires, he's not able to set the same lap times or much better lap times than Vesti. Colapinto then comes into the pits with some kind of mechanical problem. I think they sent him out for a couple laps, but in the end he would retire from the race. Let's see, lap 17, Vesti 24 seconds ahead of Doohan, so kind of not a big gap there. He will definitely lose that position, but for Vesti, it was basically win P2 and hope that Porsche doesn't get enough points if you want to win the title, so that's why these kinds of comparisons are important. Maloney overtakes Miney for turn 11, for P11 at turn 6, yes. And then at this point, the gap between Martins and Vesti was down to 3.9. So Vesti was eating into Martins' lead, but it was around this point in the race where that kind of eating into the margin kind of stopped, and they kind of basically were at like 3 seconds, 3.9 seconds, 4 seconds for the rest of the stint. Lap 18, Behrman going slowly. He looks like he had some kind of engine problem. He enters the pits, and he was overtaken by Hadjar and Hauger right before pitting, so it seemed like those pit stops, while it seemed like those overtakes at the time were a bit strange, the reality is it seemed like Behrman had some kind of engine issue. He comes to a stop right at the end of the pit entry, and they actually decide to close the pit lane. And of course, we're coming up to when the drivers on the harder tires will want to pit, so if it's closed for too long, that will be a significant problem. Lap 21, I think at this point they basically decided to reopen the pit lane. They decided he wasn't blocking, Behrman's car wasn't blocking the entry too much, so they reopened the pit lane. The gap still 3.9, and the gap to Doohan dropped to 23 seconds. So Doohan eating into that advantage that Vesti had. Maloney starting to put pressure on Iwasa, having really a pretty strong race and having better race pace than Iwasa. Vesti and Versure both pit on lap 21, and Vesti comes out ninth behind Pourchaire. So he has, at this point, he has 11 laps left in the race, 11 laps on fresher tires. Lap 24, Martin's pits comes out third, behind Doohan, showing how much of an advantage just those 4 seconds had, that he basically skipped all of those drivers, and he comes out basically already in a podium position. Lap 25, Vesti tries a double overtake on Mighty and Pourchaire, kind of makes a mess of it, and is re-overtaken by both of them into turn 9. He overtakes Mighty, turn 16, final corner, really strange overtake, but basically had much better pace, but being stuck behind in that final sector can be an absolute killer. Just talk to Fernando Alonso about that. Lap 26, Vesti overtakes Pourchaire at turn 6, but Pourchaire gets a really good run on him through the chicane and comes back and overtakes him at turn 9. However, for Vesti, he makes the move the next lap at turn 9. Lap 28, Maloney overtakes Iwasa for P3 at turn 9, and Vesti overtakes Iwasa lap 30 for P4. Then Josh Mason pulls over at the side of the track, basically on one of the long back straights with some kind of car problem. This brings out the virtual safety car. Luckily, the virtual safety car ended the next lap, so we only really lost 1 lap of racing. Lap 33, Vesti overtakes Maloney at turn 9, but on the exit of the corner, final lap of the race, of course, they make contact. Maloney sends into a spin. Vesti kind of goes off track, but manages to keep it out of the barriers. But he critically stays P3. Doohan takes the checkered flag to win the Abu Dhabi feature race, and of course, Vesti comes home P3. Pourchaire comes home P5, and he is the 2023 Formula 2 champion. So very well deserved for him, and of course he was very, very emotional after the race. So let's see. Going over the final result, of course, great result for Doohan, winning the feature race from pole. Martin's P2 with the fastest lap. Vesti, good comeback drive to finish on the podium. 4th, Iwasa. 5th, Pourchaire. 6th, Leclerc. 7th, Hauger. 8th, Hatcher. 9th, Miney. And 10th, Crawford. 11th, Nissani, missing out on points. Ended up with 0 points this year. It was a bit of a shame, but you know that's what happens when you drive a PHM. 12th, Stanek. 13th, Correa. 14th, Fittipaldi. 15th, Boschung. 18th, Cordial. 17th, Maloney. 18th, Aaron. Your 4 retirements are Mason, Versure. I don't know what happened to Versure. He was up with Vesti, and then all of a sudden he wasn't in the race. 24th, Colapinto, and of course, Behrman. So, your final championship standings in Formula 2 for 2023. Pourchaire, your driver's champion, 203 points. Vesti, 11 points back on 192. Doohan moves up to 3rd, final race of the season, to 168 points. Just imagine, Doohan could have easily been in the championship fight if he hadn't had such an awful first 3 or 4 races. Iwasa, 165 points, moves down to, of course, Martin's 150th, your rookie champion. Very, very strong season. Again, similar to Doohan, the first 3 to 4 races was just kind of not there, was not really scoring points. I remember he was down in like 15th, 16th in the championship for early parts of the season, but really, really strong season. Of course, he's going to be wanting to make a championship challenge next year. 6th, Behrman, also a very good rookie season, 130 points. 7th, Fittipaldi, 124. 8th, Hauger, 113. 9th, for sure, 108. 10th, Maloney, 96. 11th, Miney, 62. 12th, Tarula, 59. 13th, Crawford, 57. 14th, Hadjar, 55. 15th, Leclerc, 49. 16th, Boschung, 37. 17th, Novalak, 28. 18th, Stank, 15. 19th, Correa, 13. 20th, Cordio, 8. And then Nissani, Mason, Benavides, Aaron, and Colapinto all on 0 points. So finishing up this video, last Formula 2 review of the season, I'll be doing my 3 big talking points from this race. Let me just find a pen. We're going to go with the big thick red one today. Okay, so first I think obviously Pourchaire F2 champion is probably going to be a big talking point. There's going to be a lot of debate online about, him being a champion in his 3rd year. Of course, relative to other champions, he's still quite young. I believe 19 years of age. You might need to fact check me on that. But, of course, pretty well-deserved champion in a pretty tight battle with Vesti throughout the season. I think second, I think Vesti fight back will definitely be one. Had put on a really good show yesterday in the sprint race, and then today in the feature race, got to come back on the podium. Didn't do quite enough to get that championship, but still pretty good result, and I think he should be pretty proud of himself. Out of all of the second-year drivers, so Vesti, Duan Iwasa, let's see who else, Fittipaldi, Hauger, I don't think many would have picked Vesti to be that the best driver of that bunch this year, but still really good job for him. Finally, last kind of big talking point from the race. Let's see, I think the big talking point was the alternative strategy. I was quite surprised that it worked as well as it did. Usually the traditional softer tire, hard tire strategy works best in most Formula 2 races, but here it worked very, very well, and of course not a whole lot of incidents either. So the fact that you had two drivers on the podium who both did that strategy does speak that the alternative strategy was the better strategy today. So that's all for my review for the Abu Dhabi feature race. I really enjoyed doing these F2 videos this year. Great to see, potentially future Formula 1 drivers, Formula 1 stars. And of course, I'm quite excited to be doing this again next year. So thank you so much for those of you who watched all the way through the season. Like and subscribe, and it would really help the channel out as we head into the winter and of course wait for the long winter to end into next year. So again, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.